What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for HIgurashi When They Cry Go. This is episode 15, and with me, as always, I have Loosebed.
Well, that went by really quick.
I wasn't exactly sure what to expect after the last episode. I mean, technically, yeah, we do get into new territory, but it's okay. So the episode starts off pretty mundane because they're all talking about what were they even having a conversation about?
They were trying to get some toys for an auction from the toy shop, and then of course they find a mahjong set and play around with it, and then of course Keiichi comes in and teaches them how to play around with it, and then of course the first major thing we see in this episode is Akasaka, who is one of the major characters from the first two seasons. This is the first time we've ever got to see him in this show.
When I saw Akasaka was showing up, I kind of thought that this would start to go in a more a better direction, and because Akasaka, as we know, if you've seen the other two seasons, was pretty much the key. Well, maybe not. I wouldn't say the key to helping out, but he played an important role, especially in HIgurashi Kai. And they kind of briefly go over Rika's history with Akasaka, because Rika kind of is happy when she sees him again. Basically, Rika was prevented Akasaka's wife, I suppose, from dying by telling him he needed to go back to his wife or she was going to die, because they do a brief flashback. I think it was 1978, and Rika tells him that, and she also tells him that she has a premonition of her own death, I suppose, and that's pretty much all we get to see of that. So I will say, people who are watching this and they haven't seen the previous seasons are probably going to be a little bit confused as to who exactly Akasaka is, and they don't really go too much into detail about why he's important.
Yeah, I mean, at first, I really did initially think that he would play a key role in in the upcoming episodes.
That changed real quick.
Well, first, Rika, asks him, how long he's planning on staying in Hinamazawa, and of course he's only going to be there for kind of short time, but then Rika insists that he stay in up until the festival. And then that's when things just go to complete shit afterwards.
Yeah. Because the very next thing we see is Rika's dead body. And then Akasaka is just... It's obvious he has Hinamizawa syndrome. He's scratching his neck and he has a knife. So obviously he killed her.
She's still technically alive up to that point, but
Well, yeah, true. Well, she's barely conscious.
Yeah. And then, of course, the police are outside with Keiichi trying to talk Akasaka down, and then, and Rika's friends come in to try to save her, but then Akasaka just pretty much burns the entire place down, and then and that's when we get to the next loop, which, of course, we get into another situation where what was it? I think it was Neon's mother gets Hinamizawa syndrome. And she goes crazy, kills the guards, and then beheads Mion afterwards, and then walks up to Rika, which I don't know how they got around her being there in the first place. I mean, they just...
It's so depressing to watch, too, because Rika's pretty much given up. She's just just kill me.
And then shortly afterwards, she gets beheaded, and we get into another loop in which she...
I should also mention that each time that she's been counting on her fingers each of these each of the loops. So I think at this point she has, I think was it 4 more loops after this.
Well, she said in the previous episode that she was gonna go through at least 5 more loops before she takes her own life.
Yeah, and of course the previous one with Akasaka is already.
Which she initially didn't think that Akasaka would become a victim of the Hinamizawa syndrome, and she thought that he would be the key to helping out, but then that didn't turn out all too well.
I don't know if he ever does become a victim of Hinamizawa syndrome in the original.
He never did. I don't think he ever did.
Yeah.
It's just not, now we're just...
Well, the same thing with, the next loop, too, with Kimiyoshi, the mayor.
Yeah, and...
I don't recall him ever getting this syndrome either, so,
well, in this scene, he pretty much ties up Rika and, puts, like, a stone, like, under, tied to her legs, then just, just takes her to the middle of the lake and then just starts monologuing about everything about the Hinamizawa syndrome, about spiriting away the Oishiro, whatever, all that spiritual nonsense they keep spouting out. And then Rika once again just like just get it over with, your breath stinks. And then he just the mayor just promptly just throws her into down to the lake to drown. And then of course she snaps her fingers again. Then we get into another loop in which now, we're back in Angel Mort with the police outside, and then we see is Keiichi having the Hinamizawa syndrome, and he just pretty much kills everyone with a baseball bat and kills Rena by bashing her skull in. Which
Rena tries to struggle for a bit, and I kind of for a second thought that she might try to overwhelm Keiichi because she has the Rena at least does put up a fight, but it doesn't. Keiichi gets the better of her, and it smashes her head in with the bat. Because we don't see Keiichi at first, but of course we just see Rika sitting down, and she just looks like she's totally shocked. We just hear the bat swinging. As soon as I heard the bat, I was like, yeah, it's Keiichi. Keiichi smashes Rena's head in. It's just, this is the most graphic episode, I have to say that, because like we see so many people dying and people getting their heads cut off, and in this part we see Rena getting her head bashed in with the bat and her eyes literally popping out of her head. It's just so like, I mean, it almost kind of seemed at the beginning of the series fairly tame with the gore. At least until like I guess episode 4, but it would kind of go back and forth between being pretty graphic and then just for the most part being fairly restrained. But in this episode, it just goes full like it's just, there's so much gore. Like the whole episode is just people getting killed. But of course, Keiichi has the syndrome and he's scratching at his neck. He's completely gone insane. After he kills Rena, he goes over to Rika and asks how he can get the maggots out of his neck. Rika just says like, you have to bash my head in and eat my brains in order to do something like that.
I mean, that's not exactly how it works, but she just wanted to do that just to get it over with. And
yeah, she's pretty much done at that point. I think you just feel so bad for her. Like this is the episode where you feel like, I mean, you already felt bad for Rika, but in this episode you feel like it's just so because you see all the stuff she goes through. It's just, you feel so terrible. I mean, you did in the original series too, but it's just like in this series she's just being put through even more suffering that she already had to endure. She had 5 years apparently where she was living a normal life, and then all of a sudden she has to go through all this bullshit again, because we actually do briefly see like Rika in the future when she's I guess attending St. Lucia Academy. And then her, I guess, getting whisked away. Then, of course, the episode cuts, because she says, like, I wish this was all just a nightmare. And then it just cuts back to Keiichi literally just bashing Rika's head in and her eyes popping out of her head. And that is literally how this episode ends. I was kind of pissed when I saw that was it. There's nothing else. Like, there's no after credits. It's just nothing. And I just, oh, God, I don't know how to feel about this episode.
This is like the most depressing episode I've ever seen in this show. It's like,
yeah, I swear, if I don't get some answers soon, I'm just going to, I'm not going to be done with the series, but I'm just going to be so fucking mad because I'm just like, what is happening here? Like, I don't know. And I just like we got maybe like a few answers in that episode where Hanyu shows up again.
We're only like the second episode into the second core already, and they already used up like 4 loops right now. So what are they gonna do now for the next? How many episodes left? Like, I'd say 9 episodes left.
I mean, they still have time to explain stuff, but I continue to get frustrated that it just feels like we're being strung along and we're getting maybe like a few tidbits in terms of an explanation, but we still just have no idea what's happening.
I mean, the only difference now is like these loops don't feature, well, sort of Keiichi being the last survivor and then, you know, someone else. Yeah. I mean, you know, you could say that for maybe about 3 of those loops, with the exception of this last one. But it's just like, yeah, it's like, but overall, this is like the most depressing episode I've ever seen in HIgurashi in my entire life. It's it's, if you thought like it's like, you know, it's almost like ReZero type crazy in some ways. Like,
it really reminded me of that, because it's just like, you know, it just definitely felt like you know, all the shit that Subaru goes through on a regular basis in that series, having to see everybody die and then just horribly, and then, you know, just getting killed in a gruesome way himself.
Yeah, but you know, the only difference is like Rika's had it even worse, like just constantly.
Yeah, because she's been going through it for hundreds of years.
Yeah, like just the same like timeline over and over again. Compared to Subaru, he's fine.
I would say it's even more so bad, because, you know, even after those 100 or so odd years, she finally thought she got out of it for 5 years, and then for whatever reason she's going through it all again. So it's just like it's even worse.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's we're gonna be in for a very long like.
I have no idea what to expect from the next episode. I have no idea at this point. Like, I don't even have any guesses. Like, the only thing I could assume is that this is the origin story of Frederica Bernkastel from Mundane, who, like I've mentioned before, is the version of Rika where she was not able to get out of the time loop and gave into despair and turned into a witch. But I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because of just, especially with this episode, with how much crap she's been going through.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see now what she's gonna do now, because she only has like one more loop supposedly that she's gonna go through before she just completely offs herself.
I mean, who do you think the other looper is at this point? Because I mean, she still has the thing,
at this point, I don't even know at this point anymore, because. I mean, you could say it could be one of the other witches from Umineko, which I'm not completely aware of, but
I feel like that would kind of come out of nowhere, honestly, if they revealed it. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like it'd have to be somebody we've already seen.
Probably, but I don't know. It's just like it's hard for me to see if they're just gonna redo the entire, you know, finale sequence like they did in Higurashi Kai, but it'd be, you know, like it'd be a one and done thing. But like I would expect them to, like, you know, to go a different route than this one, unless, you know, they're just. But I don't even know what they're gonna do with Rika at this point. Honestly, I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I wish I had some kind of prediction for the next episode, but I'm not exactly sure. I mean, at least I will say, at least this is kind of, as far as I know, this is a lot of this is new content, at least. So it's not like a rehash of something we've seen already. But at the same time, it's just so goddamn confusing. Like, I don't know what to make of all of this.
I mean, yeah, because we, like you said last week, we're like the audience is basically, well, Rika is basically the audience at this point, because we don't, because we thought that, you know, her you know, suffering, you know, the first time around was over, and now she's having to go through this again without any real answers as to why. So now we have to find out, like, possibly within the next several episodes of what's going to happen next. Honestly, I don't expect anything significant to happen in the next episode. They're just going to go through, like, you know, the motions again until something happens, you know, that might be able to potentially change something, you know, within the next loop. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, you might be right, because we had so much stuff thrown at us in this episode. I kind of expect that the next episode will maybe to have a little bit of a slower pace and not just, you know, throw so much stuff at us all at once.
Yeah, But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see again next week. But honestly, I don't know what's gonna happen now, because we're like, I mean, it's like it's good that we're getting some new stuff compared to all the stuff that we already seen like in the first core. But with how fast this like literally went through just in this episode alone, just like I'm curious like on how they're gonna handle the next the rest of this series so far up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I guess I could say that's good about the series is that, I mean, a good thing and also an annoying thing, because I have been complaining about it, is it seems like literally everybody's left in the dark. I mean, the visual novel readers and also the anime only people who watched like the original series, like nobody knows what the hell's going on. So many people have theories, because I have been reading like people's discussions about these episodes on forums, and people have come up with some interesting theories, but I just don't know. There's nothing that's really been confirmed yet, so I don't expect anything to really be confirmed until I guess at this point, literally until we get to near the end of the series.
Yeah.
I am very curious as to what it could be, though, because, like I said, I have no idea what the reason for Rika being put through all this again.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll get an explanation soon, but now we're gonna have to go through like maybe 9 more episodes at least, if assuming if the episode count is right. But yeah, it's just like, I mean, it's not a bad episode, but it was just overall just incredibly depressing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like it just because of how insane it was, but at the same time, it's just so, like you said, it's so depressing, and you just feel so bad for Rika. I mean, you already feel bad for her, but this episode just made it 10 times worse. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it. The episode went by pretty quickly just because of all this crazy shit that was happening in it. But I mean, I don't know if you have really.
I mean, we'll have to see what's gonna happen. What Rika's next steps is gonna take for her next or final loop, or whether or not if she's even gonna bother trying. Unless something comes her way that might give her some kind of hope, maybe. But I mean, Hanyu is pretty much gone at this point. So I mean, it's even worse because she doesn't really have anybody to rely on either. So I mean, she can't get any help from Hanyu. Yeah, and it's. I did mention last week that she could that Keiichi might play a role because he has he's gotten memories from previous loops. But after what happened with him in this episode, it's just like, I don't know, because every time she comes around trusting someone, or something, she somebody gets Hinamizawa syndrome that we don't expect. It's particularly we didn't know Oishi got that syndrome last week. We never expected Akasaka to get it, nor Mion's mother. It's everyone we haven't seen get Hinamizawa syndrome back in the first 2 seasons ends up getting it this season.
Yeah, it seems like literally anybody at this point can get it. It's kind of unpredictable in that way. So yeah, in terms of people who could help her that isn't someone like Hanyu from the meta world, I don't know. I mean, Keiichi is the only possibility that stands out in my mind because, like we've said before, he has memories of other loops. So it seems like they're trying to hint at Keiichi being
but that doesn't explain how he got so crazy at the end of this episode. But it's just it seems like this, whatever this thing is, just keeps jumping around whatever it feels like it, or if maybe it's self-aware.
I mean, the only other time Keiichi, from what I remember, got Hinamizawa syndrome was literally the first arc in the first story arc in the visual novel, which was Oni Kikuchi, where he became paranoid and thought that everybody was trying to come after him, and it was revealed. I think it was probably revealed in the answer arcs that Keiichi had this Hinamizawa syndrome and that. So that's the only thing I can think of. Maybe she was going through the Oni Kikuchi loop, and maybe she just didn't realize it, I guess, and Keiichi had the syndrome. But then again, there's, like we mentioned before, there are different people in this episode that got Hinamizawa syndrome that had not gotten it before, so maybe not. It's hard to say, because they could just be completely new loops that we've never really seen. So yeah, I'm not sure. They like weird stuff is happening for sure, and I'm just so curious as to what answers we're going to get if we get any, I guess. I mean, hopefully, but yeah. But yeah, regardless, I don't really have anything else to say about this episode. So I'm definitely interested in what we might get out of the next episode. I mean, it could go various different ways. I really don't know what to expect at this point. I guess we'll just have to see. This has probably been the most interesting current anime we've been watching, to be honest, just because the whole thing's just been a huge mystery, and we've just been kind of like trying to figure out what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how it was with the original series, but at least the original series kind of gave you some hints here and there. This one just kind of leaves you, like I said, just more or less totally in the dark as to what even is happening. But yeah, that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all later.